one thing for me, my introduction to Buddhism was watching What's Love Got to Do With It, right? Okay. The Tina Turner movie. People know the whole, eat the cake anime and all of that. But one part of the movie is that she went to a friend's house, I think that was in the group, and with all of the stuff that Tina Turner was going through, she said, "Hey, have you ever practiced Buddhism?" And then they started a chant. And then a lot of people just in pop culture would just, they kind of, from watching the movie, knew the chant, or didn't even really realize that was part of Tina Turner's journey, because the whole Ike and the abuse thing took a toll. But one thing I did remember as a kid from watching that movie was her conversion to Buddhism. And that was kind of my first time seeing it presented in pop culture like that, from a black perspective. And that's something I never knew. I mean, I listened to Tina Turner's music, but I didn't know that until I watched the movie. Has it been representations of Buddhism that you've identified with in pop culture, or certain people that may practice it that you didn't know, black people?
M1 from Dead Prez practices the same sect of Buddhism, and he shouts it out quite often.
Oh, wow.
In the credits, if you ever read them. Also, Herbie Hancock.
Jazz musician.
Right?
Yeah.
And even the actress Lisa Ray.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Players Club.
Right.
Diamond. Wow.
Yep.
Season 2 of Gentleman's History Hour is sponsored by HughRepublic.com. HUERepublic.com. Go to HughRepublic.com and get the latest colors to rep your hue. Gentleman's History Hour, Season 2. Back like we never left is GHH, Gentleman's History Hour. I go by the name of Equality. Behind me working the boards, I got my man Sav. It's been a minute, but we ain't forgot y'all. We got a special guest today. We're going to get into some things. We're going to travel, take a journey. But before we take that journey, I want to encourage y'all to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We want to produce more content to balance out some of this other content that's out here in the world. So if y'all can hit the subscribe button and tell a friend to tell a friend to tell some kinfolk to tell they kinfolk to subscribe and watch, and go back and watch some of the old episodes, because a lot of times things are happening in pop culture, things are happening right now that we've touched on in previous episodes. So for all of the people that's new to the show, I want to say thank y'all and welcome y'all for taking this journey with us. For all of the people that's been riding with us, I want to say I appreciate y'all. I appreciate the subscribers, and we appreciate the comments. Without further ado, we're going to get into it. Today, I want to introduce to you a person that's a first responder. First responder means he's on the Houston Fire Department team. He's repping Houston Fire Department. I was about to say HPD. No, I don't want to rep that. We ain't repping that. Houston Fire Department. He's also a video DJ. I want to introduce to you guys video DJ B-Light. B-Light, how you doing, bro?
What up? Thank you for having me.
Hey, man, thanks for being here. Now, before we get into this journey that we here for, I want you to let the people know the various things that you do.
Well, yeah, as you said, I work for HFD as a firefighter and EMT. I'm a video DJ. I have a few residencies. One at 5015 on Thursdays, one at the Juicy Crab on Saturdays, one at Phil and Derek's during brunch on Sundays.
On Thursdays, what time is what? 9?
Thursdays, 9 to 1.
Okay, and then Fridays?
Fridays I'm open for whatever. So
okay.
And then
whatever. Sundays is Phil and Derek's is what, 10?
10 to 2.
10 to 2. All right. I just wanted people to know what you do on your day-to-day.
Right.
But what we're here for is to talk about your spiritual journey.
Okay.
Starting at the age of 15.
Yep. Yep. Well, actually, it started before that, but as far as like Buddhism is concerned, 15 is when I was introduced to it.
Okay, and that's what we're here to talk about. Your spiritual journey, your journey into what we know as Buddhism. But I also want to talk about your relationship to Buddhism as a black man. There's a lot of times we hear Buddhism and we think Asian culture, first and foremost.
Right.
So as a kid, as a young teenager, can you just take me back, or take us, all of the people that's watching and that's listening to this, take us back to your teenage years and you hearing the word Buddhism, or how it was presented to you?
Yeah, so before we get there, just a few things that led up to that moment. First and foremost, like the first religion I was actually ever introduced to was Islam. My mom remarried, and I learned Islam through an Arab man, not NOI. So that's a different flavor altogether.
It would have been Orthodox Islam.
Right. So my first introduction to religion, period, was going to mosques. And
how old were you at this time? Can you remember?
Like 7, 8.
Okay, so real young.
Yeah, and then from there, my mom sent me to parochial schools where basically theology was taught at all of them, Christian-based, at all of them, from Catholic to Episcopalian. Mainly those were the two that I was introduced to. And from all that experience and basically seeing that there were a lot of holes in the religions that were being presented to me, I knew I didn't have a place in those. So I stayed looking, so to speak. And at 15, I was introduced to Buddhism by some friends of my mom. And from there, I just gravitated towards it and just held on. And
when you say introduced to it by some friends of your mom, was it that, they had to be older than you if they were friends of your mom?
Right.
So were they just like asking you questions one day, or did you ask them questions?
So first off, they were Cuban. Second off, the way they introduced the practice to me was a way to basically be self-empowered and make real change in my own life. And that's what I gravitated towards. So I've always been in the mindset that whatever religion I practice, as it contrasts to Christianity, that no one is coming to save me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got to do everything for myself. Like, I never resonated with basically having a quote-unquote savior.
A savior.
Yeah. And furthermore, my thinking at 15 was to take this stance, and if I'm wrong, I mean, I'll be in a better position when I do get saved, if that's in fact what's going to happen, right?
One thing I want to get some clarity on.
Yeah.
We're using the word Buddhism as if it's just a blanket. Could I say religion? How would you? Okay,
yeah.
As if it's just a blanket religion, but there are various, just like with Islam, right? You have Orthodox Islam, you have Sunni Muslims.
Right.
Within Christianity, you have Pentecostal, you got Methodist, Episcopal, all of the different other sects that go underneath that.
Right.
It's the same with Buddhism, right?
Right. So the origin of Buddhism started in India, first and foremost, for anybody who don't know that. And it actually started like 1200 BC. And we don't have a Bible per se. We have sutras written by the original Buddha. from India, and there are about 370 different sutras. And from the 370, the different branches of Buddhism come from whichever sutra that religion focuses on. So there are, I believe, over 200 different sects.
So what branch
Am I?
are you?
Yeah. So my specific sect is called Nichiren Shoshu Buddhism, and it was founded about in the 13th century. And in short, what we believe is that the Buddha was reincarnated from the original to the 13th century to basically tell us or give us the blueprint of how we should continue on from that point. And he was basically someone we revere as somebody who had the knowledge of what was to come and what parts of Buddhism would no longer be useful.
Well, different religions have a messiah type of figure or a prophet type of figure. So what would Buddha be in Buddhism? Would it be along the same?
No, not at all. So this is kind of hard to explain, but Buddhism is essentially atheistic in that we don't believe in a creator. And the first question I get from people with a Christian background is, how did everything get here? And the simplest response is, everything's always been here. And basically everything just constantly gets recycled.
Energy is never created nor destroyed. It
Correct.
just changes.
Right. So with that, there is no creator from our standpoints. However, we do acknowledge people that have surpassed human existence. And if you're not in Buddhism, you would call them gods, but that's not really what they are from a Christian standpoint.
What would Buddha be considered?
Buddha, yeah. So the reason this faith resonates so much with me is because it's the only faith I came into at the early age I did, before learning about other walks, where you didn't have to keep your position in life that you started with. And I say that to say, in Christianity, there's never been a way a human can become a god, right? Or in Islam, there's no way a human can become the equivalent of Allah, or so on and so forth. But in Buddhism, you can become a Buddha. And in short, it's based on how you live. So the part where you're accountable for everything, and through that you either progress in life or not, is solely on you. And
so there's no, just for clarity, there's no outside. You control
everything. Yep.
Your actions and everything. You have to deal with the consequences.
Yep. There's
no one else to pray to save you, to get you through it.
Right.
It's all on you.
All on you.
It's your actions that determine your position in life.
Yep.
And what you do.
Not only your position in life, but in comparing and contrasting, assuming most people have a Christian background, Christians worry about afterlife all the time. as the main motivator of how they live. And in Buddhism, we are actually living our afterlife right now. You know what I'm saying? So we've lived our afterlife before, we will live our afterlife again, and this is it. So we don't per se have the same concepts of heaven and hell as Christians do. However, we have our own. We acknowledge them as states of existence. We acknowledge a hell, but we also have the equivalent of heaven, which is Buddhahood, where you become a Buddha.
But that's in your physical realm, right? Not after you.
Yeah.
Okay, so your heaven and your hell is still while you are on earth. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
But also in between those two states of existence, we have 8 others. So just going from the bottom to the top, there's hell, hunger, anger, animality. From animality, there's, I believe it's called humanity. Then there's learning, realization, bodhisattva, and then Buddhahood. Most of those are pretty self-explanatory. From the bottom to the top, hell is a state of unshakable pain and suffering. A real life example would be like a terminal illness. Then hunger is pretty literal. It could be like a physical thing, a spiritual thing, a mental thing, but hunger is hunger. I think everybody understands that. From there, hell, hunger, anger. It's pretty straightforward. Animality is the state of living like an animal, as in you are basically a slave to your shell. As in you are led by what feels good.
Your lower nature.
Yeah. So like you eat and sleep with no regard to like a schedule. You know what I'm saying? And then whatever other like desires of the flesh.
One thing I wanna ask you about, we were touching on it with no afterlife. Everything that's here has always been here. The word reincarnation.
Mm-hmm.
How does reincarnation relate to Buddhism?
So I mean that is like a fundamental part of Buddhism, in that you want to know like how it works. Or
well, I guess sometimes I would say there's no new human beings.
Right.
Everything that's here is just recycled.
Right.
From, you're just reincarnated as something else, living a different life experience.
Okay.
A person may die in the physical, and then, later through life, a kid is born and their family say, man, that reminds me of, great-great-grandmother, or this is what a lot of black people are saying, that baby been here before.
Right.
Not realizing that they may be acknowledging a form of reincarnation.
Right. Yeah, so it's strange to me that there is a lot of like mixing of Christianity and Buddhism in America. It happens quite often. That's one way that happens. Another way it happens is when people talk about karma.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. The misconception on how people abuse the term karma.
Right.
They'll say, what goes around comes around.
Right.
Or I guess if I did something bad, then or if I do something good, I'll have quote unquote good karma and I'll be rewarded some kind of way.
Right.
Now, your interpretation of karma.
Yeah, so the misconception is, number one, that karma is the equivalent of God by most people with a Christian background.
It can be outside of Christian. It can be Catholic background. I mean, it could be any type of background. It doesn't have to just be Christianity. I've heard people that don't practice Christianity just say karma, and they use it in a way of like, okay, I want to do something good so I can have good karma.
Right. So a few things about karma. Number one, you're born with the karma you have from your past life, which basically sets you up for your present. So the answer to, like why people are born in whatever tragic positions that other people can't relate to, that's the answer, essentially.
It's a result of whatever they did in their former life, and they're coming back to suffer.
Right.
Do you know of any examples where people may have realized who they were in a former life?
I know it's possible. That's not talked about too much from the priests I've been around, but I know they know about it. It's something that they don't really focus on too much, but I know it's real.
It's possible.
Yeah.
And because that goes into what I like to say, fact versus fiction, or breaking down some of the misconceptions.
Mm-hmm.
One, that Buddhism is primarily practiced. I know a lot of times here in the United States, we associate it with Asian culture outside of India.
Right.
We just see a lot of people in Asian culture and assume, oh, okay, they practice Buddhism.
Mm-hmm.
Karma. Also, another stereotype is the image of Buddha. Most religions have a certain image.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the painting of Jesus, or depictions of who certain prophets were.
Right.
For us here in this westernized culture, the image of Buddha we always see is like the fat, happy.
Mm-hmm.
That
image actually comes from a Zen monk in like the 1300s. But if you
accuracy of it, let me ask you that.
Yeah, it's not. But if you go back further than that, you'll see like the statues of the Buddhas before. They look like us.
Us meaning black
people. Yeah. I mean, you'll see like the Buddhas with the Bantu knots, the statues of that. So yeah, I never understood like why Buddhism wasn't more popular amongst black people, because
how do you think it would help us? Let me ask you that. How do you think black people could benefit from Buddhism?
Well, accountability for one. It's like one of the main things in Buddhism. And in that, you have to be very aware of cause and effect relationships, because that's basically what the faith is centered around, cause and effect.
Give me an example of when you say cause and effect relationship.
So, I mean, it can be broken down like to science, or just
in simple terms.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, you get a rock, you throw it in a still pond, and the pond makes waves. So the cause was throwing the rock, the waves are the effect. And we believe that within every cause there's another effect, and it's like an eternal thing.
that's where your accountability comes into play.
Right. So in Buddhism, like, there are no quote unquote miracles. We're not waiting on anything to happen. And I feel like it's the opposite of Christianity in that we aren't, I don't mean to sound offensive, but it makes us a lot less docile.
Well, I mean, a lot of people will say that about religion in general, not just Christianity. I mean, Christianity, because that's one of the, 3 Western religions.
Right.
Even though it was practiced in Africa different ways, but once it got westernized, as with anything else, it can become bastardized.
Right.
So that kind of leads me into something else with Buddhism. Speaking in terms of the westernized culture of it, do you feel like it's still pure from its origins to how it's practiced in this westernized culture that we live in here? Or do you feel like, how some in Islam, some Orthodox Muslims, they take pilgrimage to Mecca? Is it something in Buddhism that says, okay, until you really go to India and practice with Buddhists in India, that's kind of like your Hajj or your pilgrimage? Is it something like that in Buddhism?
Absolutely. So we don't have the Mecca. We have the head temple where the sect of Buddhism practice was established, which is in Japan, outside of Tokyo, on grounds called Taiseki. And I've been there about 5 times now, and we're encouraged to go yearly, if not as often as we can, at least once in our lifetime. So going there, it actually gave me a better perspective of what this whole thing was about, and I had a deeper appreciation for it, in that, like, the lineage of the teachings, they're very strict about how it's passed down. And a lot of the people in the priesthood are there from age like anywhere between 5 to 15.
Now, when you've been using the word priesthood, to ascend to priesthood in Buddhism, are there certain steps to get there?
Yeah.
Like, what do you have to do to ascend to becoming a priest?
You basically have to devote your life. It's a very, very different way of living.
Strict.
It's very strict, yeah. It's not too strict in that, like, priests can't get married or anything like that. But you are living away from your family. You are, like, on temple grounds the majority of your life, and you do live off of the contributions of members. Like, you don't have another job or anything like that. Like,
that is your job.
Your life is
you
the
devoted
priesthood.
your life to Buddhism. Now, and this is for people that's watching this, that's making certain connections. So priesthood, that's something that's common in other religions. Also, a place of worship in Buddhism. We know on Sundays, that's the day most people, they go to the church, or people may go to the mosque, or people go to their place of worship. In Buddhism, what is that equivalent? So, is there a particular day?
So for my sect, we only have, in America, I believe we have about 7 different temples. And of those 7, they're placed in different regions of America. And the one I belong to is actually in LA, off of Hollywood Boulevard. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you're not able to go to LA, is there I guess the question I'm asking is,
so there's not a designated day.
Yeah, like okay, on Sundays.
There's not a designated. We
you guys go
pray
to
twice a day, and we have altars at home. We host meetings at our house with other members in the area. We try to make it out to our nearest temple when we can. And of course,
when you say nearest, so there are local outside of the LA temple.
No.
Oh, when you say nearest, you mean traveling to? Oh, okay,
right.
Going to California to go to that temple. But outside of that, it would be your personal, or you guys getting together in someone's home.
Yeah.
To say worship.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
or practice.
Practice. Yeah.
Yeah, because when they using the word worship sometimes can denote that there's some higher, you're worshiping some higher power.
Okay.
And if that's not, if you don't have a creator, then where does the worshiping come from?
So the whole point of the faith is to ascend to Buddhahood, which is essentially your higher self. So the prayers are devoted to ascending to your higher self. And so if you want to like take it this way, it wouldn't be inaccurate to say you're praying to your higher self.
Yourself.
Yeah.
Got it. It reminds me of in ancient Kemet, they call it I want to say the Hiram Marquette. Yeah, a pyramid where it's like the animal at the bottom. It's like almost like a pharaoh at the top, and it's that same belief system in that your higher power has to control your lower nature, your animalistic nature, and this is all the way back in ancient Kemet.
Right.
I'm saying pyramid, but yeah, it would be considered a structure or a sculpture or structures in the same way of a pyramid, but it has it's metaphoric for ascending to your higher self and subduing your animalistic. That's why the lower nature is the animal. It's similar. It just made me think it's similar to the same thing in Buddhism and your higher self. Now, one thing for me, my introduction to Buddhism was watching What's Love Got to Do With It, right?
Okay.
The Tina Turner movie. People know the whole, eat the cake anime and all of that. But one part of the movie is that she went to a friend's house. I think that was in the group. And with all of the stuff that Tina Turner was going through, she said, "Hey, have you ever practiced Buddhism?" And then they started a chant. And then a lot of people just in pop culture would just, they kind of, from watching the movie, knew the chant, or didn't even really realize that was part of Tina Turner's journey, because the whole Ike and the abuse thing took a toll. But one thing I did remember as a kid from watching that movie was her conversion to Buddhism. And that was kind of my first time seeing it presented in pop culture like that, from a black perspective. And that's something I never knew. I mean, I listened to Tina Turner's music, but I didn't know that until I watched the movie. Has it been representations of Buddhism that you've identified with in pop culture, or certain people that may practice it that you didn't know, black people that practice Buddhism, that as you grew in your journey, you were like, oh, wow, I didn't realize that this person, or I didn't realize in pop culture some of the maybe some symbols or certain things may have been said that you're like, oh, it may have been a Buddhist person that wrote this. Or maybe in hip hop, somebody made reference to something. You're like, oh, okay, maybe they studied Buddhism.
Yeah, a few. So I'll give you both black and non-black people.
Okay.
So the first time I took my pilgrimage to Taisekaji, the head temple, I went with a group, and in that group, we are like divided when we have to. So we land in Tokyo, and from Tokyo, like getting to Taisekaji is not like a short ride. We have to stop and basically be at a hotel for a night, and then we get to the head temple the next day, and everything begins. In that stop, I was actually roomed with the lead drummer to the group Hole.
Rock group?
Yeah.
Hole, like H-O-L-E or W-H? Oh, H-O-L-E?
I believe H-O-L-E. Yeah, H-O-L-E. The lead singer was Courtney Cobain.
Oh, the Kurt Cobain's
wife.
Oh, wife. Oh, wow.
And yeah, I was roomed with the drummer for that band. So that was the first time I ever saw a musician like in person. After that, M1 from Dead Prez practices the same sect of Buddhism, and he shouts it out quite often.
Oh, wow.
In the credits, if you ever read them. Also, Herbie Hancock.
Jazz musician.
Right?
Yeah.
And even the actress Lisa Ray.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Players Club.
Right.
Diamond. Wow.
Yep.
Do they, like, I never would have known, like, somebody like Lisa Ray. I don't know, she shouted it out or something? Or?
Yeah, she
Okay.
has a few times.
Huh. It's like I said, I know for us as black people, it always seemed foreign
Right.
to us because we were not raised in those environments and understanding. And the fact that your introduction was through people of Cuban nationality. Did you ever find out how they got into Buddhism?
So with my specific sect called Nichiren Shoshu, there was a study group called SGI. And the study group grew and grew and grew. And they also, they were the introduction to a lot of people for this sect of Buddhism. And in short, how my sponsor became a part of it was through that study group. Some things happened, and the study group got like bigger than it should have been, and they were actually excommunicated from the actual religion, which is just some internal stuff we got going on. However, that doesn't change the fact that a lot of people's introduction was through the study group called SGI, which is actually how Tina Turner was introduced to it as well.
Now, from watching the movie, she chanted. Now, you said pray 2 times a day.
Right. Morning and night.
Morning and night. Your prayer, is it also a chant?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is the prayer a chant?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah. So we read from a book called the Lotus Sutra. There are 5 prayers in it. Of the 5, we do all 5 in the morning, and then we do 3 at night. The first is basically showing like appreciation for the religion itself. The second is showing appreciation for all the people involved in the lineage. The third are specific shout outs of people. I'm sorry, the second is showing appreciation for the head temple. The third is the specific shout outs to people in the lineage. The fourth are your personal prayers, where you essentially like pray for whatever's going on in your life. And then the fifth is essentially like a prayer for the deceased. So we do all 5 in the morning, and of those we do 3 at night. And that's pretty much it.
I got a couple more questions. They kind of so let me ask you this: in dealing in your personal life, right? Relationships, men, women. Has it been times where people, because of your Buddhism and them not understanding it, where they just like, I can't talk to you?
Oh, definitely.
Just strictly based off of
Absolutely.
surface level.
Absolutely.
You meet someone and you're like, and I don't know how the conversation goes,
right?
And it comes up, or maybe they say, "Hey, you want to go to church with me?" or whatever, and you may say,
"No." I mean, like,
how does it come up to where they just right off the bat just like, "Nah, I can't deal with you"?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're in the South. You know what I'm saying? Black women love church. Black women love Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love black women. So in that, and what's interesting is like, it doesn't even have to be like black women that are in church like that, but just them hearing that like, I don't rock with it, you know, and I don't plan to. Yeah, it's turned a lot of people away.
So once it comes up that they find out that you're Buddhist, it's a turnoff.
Yeah, yeah.
Do they even try to ask questions to find out? Like, okay,
nah,
what is it? Or it's just
usually
strictly
not.
like,
usually not.
Like, I can't.
Yeah,
I can't. Yeah. What about family relationships?
But that's in Texas mainly. Like, it's different in Cali.
Yeah.
It's different in New York.
More open-minded to.
I wouldn't necessarily say they're more open-minded. They just don't care.
It's not that big of an issue.
Yeah.
What about family? Like, was your mom pretty open?
Not at all. She still is not.
Is it because she just doesn't understand it, or she
doesn't want to understand it? Number one. Number two, I got a very strange family dynamic, to say the least, and my mom doesn't like the fact that somebody else put me on.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's a whole thing for her.
She's kind of holding a personal grudge.
Yeah.
She wanted to be the person to introduce, so she can say,
"Yeah,
I introduce you to."
Right
now,
but outside of that, outside of family and like women, just like people in general have like a lot of misconceptions. Like number one, that like all Buddhists are vegetarians. Like that's not the case.
The sacred cow or something like that.
Like all Buddhists are like about peace and meditation. I'm about that action. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't work like that. What else? I don't know. It's a lot of.
Let me ask you this, man. I don't know if you've ever thought about this or not. And I mentioned this earlier. I said a first responder.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't think people really understand. People hear it, but I don't think they really understand what first responder means. I want you to kind of touch on that, but the reason why I want you to touch on that is because this is part of what you do in your profession, and we don't have to get into detail, but some of the things that you've seen as a first responder, and how, I'm trying to think of a good way to frame this question, how Buddhism has prepared you to deal with certain things where you may have to have uncomfortable conversations as a first responder. Does your professional life and your spiritual life intertwine at times? Or do you keep
Absolutely. I mean, like, the spiritual intertwines with everything, but
understood. But first, the first responder.
As a first responder, okay. So, yeah, people hear first responder and don't really get what it's about. So we're the first people to not only be at the scene of fires, but every kind of medical emergency you can think of. And with that said, we see a lot of death, a whole lot of death, a whole lot of near dying, a whole lot of death. And where Buddhism plays a part for me is like in seeing death, how does that hit me, right? And in understanding that, you know, our life is basically a moment and we will have more moments, I don't feel the gravity that people without my way of thinking feel. I.e., like the finality of it. So, yeah, I don't really get like too broken up about.
You don't take your job home.
Sometimes I do, but I don't. It doesn't hit me the same way. Yeah. When I do take my job home, it doesn't have anything to do with people dying per se, but like how it happens. Yeah. So, i.e., like being in the back of an ambulance with like a 20-something-year-old with 2 big holes in his chest from being shot, asking me if he's gonna make it, and I'm knowing he's not. Like that type of stuff is like what can stick with you. But yeah, outside of that, like that's pretty much where it comes into play mostly. And then also, I feel like my faith or walk of life or whatever gives me kind of a superpower almost, in that I'm able to endure a lot. And where endurance really plays a part, a big part, is being in an actual fire, you know, and like trying to pull people out, or just 1,000,001 different things I find myself in at any given time.
One question I want to ask you, maybe you answered it, but if someone was to ask you, what do you think happens to you after you die? What would your answer be? Because you know different people, we talked about it, they say, well, you go here, you go. Right, nobody really knows. Nobody.
Right. So, I mean, your options are based on how you lived. And in saying that, it should be noted that like the likelihood of being reborn as a human is very, very rare. So.
You saying reborn as a human?
Correct.
Is very rare? Very
rare.
So
I say that to say,
outside of being born human, what, come back as an animal? Or
I mean, how many different insects are there?
Yeah.
How many different animals are there?
Yeah.
And we only talking about Earth. There's a lot out there.
Yeah.
And we haven't even touched the sea.
So your human life is preparing you for your next life?
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
Understood.
So, yeah, however you lived basically dictates your options.
On how you are reincarnated.
Right. And depending on how you live, if it's righteous enough, you can choose whether or not you even want to be reincarnated. So in this faith, there's existence and non-existence. And this is kind of a weird concept, but you can exist in non-existence, so to speak. And in that, you can choose whether you want to come back or not, depending on if you have the option. So, yeah. As far as like the reincarnation part, how you're reborn, I mean, if you just think about all the living organisms, from like plant life to insect life to animals to sea creatures, and that's just, like I said, this Earth. You know, there are other planets that, you know what I'm saying?
Recycle.
Yep.
We're just recycling each other here on this earth.
Yep.
You just recycle. There's no new.
Right.
You just recycle. Energy is just being recycled.
Right.
From one afterlife to another afterlife to another afterlife. Or one reincarnation to another reincarnation to another reincarnation, depending on
how you live.
How you've been living.
And like the point is just ascension. That's it.
To reach that God state.
Right.
In human form.
Right.
Got it.
Or whatever you are. And
then also, Buddhists can have fun because you do DJ.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's no, you know, some people may hear it, and like you said, they have these stereotypes that, oh, as a Buddhist, you're not supposed to do this or you're not supposed to do that. It seems to me that you control your destiny.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said in the beginning, everything is cause and effect. I mean, like, we don't have quote unquote commandments.
Yeah, like laws.
Right.
Or, you know.
So with that said, I mean, the only thing that's encouraged is to understand the effects of the cause you're making. So with that, you know, like, have at it.
Yeah. Man, I want to say thank you for having this this conversation, man.
Sure.
And really, you know, really enlightening people, man. I don't know how often you have these conversations with
Never.
people. And one, you don't really wear it on your sleeve.
Nah.
You know, it's you know, unless a person has that conversation with you, they're not gonna know. You don't just, you don't wear it, you know, there's no way to show it on the outside.
Right.
That, hey, I'm a Buddhist, other than living your life, and people say, hey, you know, or they may wonder certain things about you, and then you can say, well, yes, it's because I practice Buddhism. Or if someone is around you at your house, and then they have to see you chant before you leave the house.
Right.
And then they get to see that.
Or when I'm at the fire station, boys see me pray all the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So for them, it's common now.
It's a little bit more. They're a little bit. At least my crew is used to it.
Yeah, they're used to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not. This could be wherever you are at that particular time when you have to.
Well, I mean, like, especially at the fire station, when like the tones go off, like, we never know what we're about to walk into.
Oh, and you say a prayer each time.
I try to, yeah.
You leave.
Yep.
Understood. Man, I appreciate it, man. This was a good, good dialogue, man. I want people to get to know, you know, outside of just what we do, and how we do what we do. There are certain things that may propel us to where we are in life, in the position that we are in life, and we may not have those conversations a lot of time because we're just moving and we're shifting. But to have those open-minded conversations to where it's not a judgment. A lot of times it's hard to have conversations because people right off the bat have had misconceptions, and so they start the conversation off strictly on judgment, and everything is judgment after that, and that can be frustrating, especially when you don't have a belief system that's popular in this culture.
Right.
So, you know, even if a lot of times, you know, for a long time, if a person was Muslim, it was you know, oh wow, it was a judgment. Anything outside of down south, anything outside of Christianity, a lot of times people passed a lot of judgment, and you couldn't really get to know a person to really understand and exchange knowledge. Once you make up your mind that you're going to be ignorant to something, to me, it really limits what you can learn from other people.
Of course.
And I think growth is predicated on being open-minded and not just talking to people that agree with everything.
Right.
Also having conversations with people that you may not agree with. You may not agree with a person that that's vegetarian. You eat meat, but you can still learn.
Right.
Just because it's not something that you do, you can still learn from it. But anything else you want to say, man, before we wrap this up?
Man, I just want to say thanks for having me. I hope I represented proper. Yeah.
If people are interested in Buddhism, what would you, I know we had a lot of before we wrap it up, but what's one thing that you would tell people if they are interested in Buddhism, a start? Where could they start? Is it something they should read? Is it a place to go?
Honestly, I mean, if they were moved by anything I said, hit me up direct.
What's your info?
So
your social media info.
Yeah, on Facebook, you can reach me on my government name, Silvester Mcagrane. On IG, I'm under there on my DJ name, Video DJ Be Light.
And we'll put it on the screen.
Sure.
We'll have your @
But yeah, just hit me up. I would love to answer any questions if anybody had any or has any. Other than that, as I said before, my sect of Buddhism is Nichiren Shoshu Buddhism. There is a website for it if you want to look that up online. Yeah, outside of that, yeah, just hit me up.
Got it. This GHH, Equality. I got my man Salv. Got Video DJ Be Light. Formerly, can I say formerly known as? Because some people may.
That's fine.
Formerly known as, because some people may not watch it, they may hear it. Formerly known as Video DJ Slyfoxx.
Right.
So this is Be Light from here on out.
From here on out.
Formerly Video DJ Slyfoxx. Once again, subscribe. Gentleman's History Hour. It's information. We in the information age. It's a lot of stuff going on out there. We want to balance out the energy with what we do. Not saying that we're better than anybody else, but we just want to bring balance to a lot of the stuff that's out here. So hit the subscribe button. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to tell your kinfolk. And we out of here, y'all.